Hey folks, Salty Seaman here, doing a late night commentary recording. This is a movie I have somehow never seen or even really heard of. Like, I think I've heard the name of this movie bandied about, knew nothing about it. I was actually getting ready to watch some Officer and a Gentleman, which I will get to in the future. It's waiting in the the good old can, as we could say. But The Boys in Company C, 1978. This is a Vietnam movie that starts off with Marines going through boot camp, and one of their drill instructors is played by Ermey. Now, stop me if you've heard this before, because I damn sure, and I'm like, how the fuck did this ever go without me noticing it? And also, I think when I did the tribute to Arlie video, I think some people mentioned it in the comments, and I just didn't know what they're talking about. But he did this movie 8 or 9 years before Full Metal Jacket. I think he was still active at the time. And he's playing the same role, except he's a sergeant in this one. But anyway, I know that's only the beginning of the movie. I was watching clips on YouTube, and I was like, God damn, I really want to watch this. It's mainly because, I think, more than just pointing out inaccuracies, because, when I did Full Metal Jacket, I got, especially the Vietnam stuff, I kind of got raked over the coals a bit for, my assertions and assessments about the Vietnam part of the movie, especially. And, everyone's entitled to their opinion, whatever. I'm not, it's just one of those things where I just got like, ugh. A lot of people had very salient points. Other people, were unable to get what I was putting down. It's like, hey, there were 2 female snipers in Vietnam. Blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. I mean, I swear to God, you did not listen to a word I said. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a rant here. Most of you cats are cool. I dig you. But this is, of course, I will still do my military bullshit thing and point out any inaccuracies I do see fit. But mostly, it'd probably be a lot of compare and contrast here. Other Vietnam movies. I wish I'd seen Platoon more recently, because that's kind of the gold standard. But you definitely can compare this to other ones, especially obviously Full Metal Jacket, which I will probably be doing a lot, especially in the first half. But sit back and let's talk a little Boys in Company C. We open up with everyone arriving to boot camp. I believe this is San Diego, and it looks like it is shot on the base. And probably the extras are real Marines and sailors. A product of its time. The soul jive talk between the 2 brothers. One of them is going in, one of them staying behind. From what I've seen in the clips, I kind of know what's going on there, but just the dialogue is just... Oof, some stuff just doesn't age well, but at the same time endearing nonetheless.
What?
I enlisted in the Marines, sir.
What the hell did you do in stay like that for?
A question I'm sure every Marine through boot camp and probably through their enlistment probably asked themselves over and over again. It's a good question. In the Navy, this guy would be Filipino and not Hispanic.
Sergeant, get these fucking people through receiving barracks. I'm gonna help you out. I don't want them dropping any of their fucking civilian slime on the way through. Jesus.
So yeah, here's Arlie Ermey, introduced as Lee Ermey, and this is his introduction role. Though I don't know what he did between this movie and Full Metal Jacket. I think he was around. I know that. And I've gone on the story of Arlie Ermey, but I can't get away. Full Metal Jacket. You can't get away from that comparison here, because that's all I hear when he talks is Gunny Hartman. But instead of Joker or Pyle answering him, it's a bunch of weird dudes I don't know. So that's interesting. It's kind of eerie, and like it kind of takes you out for a second, because it's just so odd. Because it feels like you're almost watching another movie. And I've seen, we on one of my ships, we used to watch that movie at least the first half of it, the boot camp part, all the damn time. I basically have the first half of that movie memorized. So when he starts talking and he's saying words I don't expect him to say, that kind of weirds me out. Then I hear other people talking who aren't the characters from FMJ, and it's a weird scene. This scene is like this is definitely. I like that they're showing receiving here, which is a part of boot camp. Like no one ever really talks about. It's not glamorous, but I think it's pretty universal. It's one of the worst parts of any boot camp, and generally it's before they can even like PT you, until you get medically cleared, which the movie also seems to be following. I don't know if that was always the case. It was, I've heard stories of other people, they were doing push-ups straight off the bus. I don't know if that's true. I know my own experience. No, it was we couldn't get PT till we were medically cleared after that first week of receiving and getting our uniforms and all that. Oh, it's just it is a nightmare. It's like you're tired and you're confused and the culture shock and everyone's yelling at you. So I appreciate this movie doing that. The questionnaire that's definitely something I've never seen before, and I know they asked those questions. I went through it during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, so I didn't get asked if I ever slept with another man. I don't know if I got asked about. I don't know if I got asked about fucking animals. I don't think they didn't do it in boot camp. I think it was just on the paperwork I signed. It was a question. So interesting, they do it differently there. And then the question I definitely never hear is, how often do you masturbate? Which is like, I wonder how people hedge their bets on that one. Do they say, yeah, all the time, I can't stop, or do they, it's like, oh, I never do it, or whatever. I don't know. It's a weird personal question to ask. I just remember my own boot camp experience. It was, we just got told in 2 words, no masturbating, and that was like the beginning and end of it. He just looked at me and just said that, and went back to his paperwork, or reading off the rules of boot camp, whatever it was. But yeah, this is a fun little opening so far. And yes, they're giving them high and tights, and instead of shaving them bald, almost obviously probably an Iggy for the actors, so they have to walk around bald for however long it took them to shoot the boot camp scenes. Which again, comparison to FMJ, they were more accurate in that, and those actors had to go around bald for a very long time. Still better than Stripes, of course. The tattoo on Arlie Ermey's Sergeant Loyce character is a nice touch, and it definitely during the time that was tattoos, especially ones very visible on forums and such, was kind of the it was I probably all the services to a degree, but definitely the sea services. The Navy's definitely more known for it, but Marines as well. My dad, got tattoos in the 50s, but back then, like, the tattoos were not a common sight, and it was kind of a, other than, biker gangs and, other things, the very few respectable people that, might have a friggin' half sleeve done, were guys in the military, especially the Navy and Marine Corps. So, and that would have stood out definitely during this time period. The movie's shot in 1978. Takes place, I don't know what time in Vietnam, but anyways, a nice touch. There's also this. I guess this is the when the Navy would have called the Smurf the Smurf Hotel or the Smurf Barracks. I'm assuming this is the temporary barracks, which are while they're in receiving. But man, that looks like it sucked. That's a really tiny little cramped barracks. I am not sure why it looks like it is light outside. These guys are hitting their racks. That definitely never happened. I don't know if that's intentional, or they just couldn't shoot around it, or maybe it's supposed to be represent spotlights outside. But it sure looks like it's bright daylight and these guys are going to bed, which doesn't happen in boot camp. Interesting note here. Going back to the Full Metal Jacket comparison. In that movie, they wear boxers, and in this one, they wear tighty whities. And I kind of wonder like which one is accurate, or maybe it's too. Maybe they switched at some point in during Vietnam service, or maybe it's a difference between Paris Island and San Diego, or maybe one of the movies just got the wrong kind of underwear. I don't know. But just interesting little side note. And also, they call them privates instead of recruit. Again, I'm wondering if that's a something that changed during this time period, or just an oversight. I've never heard Marines in boot camp called private. They were always called recruit. So that's weird, possibly bullshit. They told you to lay down and play dead in boot camp. You would immediately do it because that means you can sleep. So the hesitation is absolute bullshit. That is a weird looking officer. I know that's wrong to say, but let's face it, officers just don't look like that unless they're, and what I'm assuming he's supposed to be, Mustangs. If you don't know what that means, a Mustang is a prior enlisted guy. You don't know what I mean by what officers look like. Hang around the military for long enough, you'll see what I mean.
Man, they got more niggers in this platoon than the Oakland fucking Raiders.
Blatant racism. This is a really, really, really good scene. I gotta give props to this. I'm enjoying this movie so far altogether. That was one of the more real moments I've seen so far. Just that discussion that is stuff that happens in boot camp for real. I definitely feel like this is the way it was going. That Washington was going to end up being the guide, platoon leader, whatnot. But of course, we know he's still operating his own little side game here, even though he is showing, actual camaraderie and teamwork, and he wants to do this the best he can, even though he, of course, still has his own little picadillos he's going to deal with. I assume sending back drugs in body bags, which did happen. I don't know, individually, CIA, there's tons of stories from Vietnam about that stuff happening. But I haven't got to that part yet, but we're getting there. Crooked piss cover, or garrison cover, however you want to call it. And yes, absolutely a pissed off colonel would do that. That is completely within the realms of possibility. It's probably took him a couple of strings, but nothing he couldn't do. And yeah, of course, Fazio's gonna go to Nam. Also a nice part, they keep singing the cadence even though they're graduated and off to advanced training. That's all you hear for, back then 2 months as opposed to 3 months now with the Marines. Definitely something I can relate to. Like, that's the only music you hear in boot camp is cadence. I think I talked about it a little bit on my Tales from the Fleet about boot camp. That cadences just stay stuck in your head the entire time, even weeks to a month after boot camp. Like, you just keep playing them over and over in your head. It's the only tune you got. So yeah, that's pretty accurate. And of course, a nice little send off for their drill instructor, who they showed their respect for what he did for them. And I guess that's the last we're seeing of R. Lee probably in this movie. So. Great Mr. Ermey. Another enjoyable role for you. I'll be watching this movie in the future, especially to see you.
Prepared us for everything, except our new company commander.
It's easy to see what's in your minds as we steam for far-off angry shores, so I'd like to share with you some figures that have come...
I cannot figure out what this bosun's whistle is supposed to be other than just background ambient noise, as it doesn't sound like the chow whistle, and there's no following announcement for what it is referring to. So weird, but assuming the movie just did it for ship ambiance. Did not see any watchstanders on the brow. Again, probably for movie purposes, move them out of the way. There should be a watch there. Heroin addiction in Vietnam was a huge, huge issue. It was just prevalent everywhere, and the story of he got Dilaudid or whichever it was, and then pills or the freely available, heroin powder version was around everywhere. It really was a lot of guys came back hooked. Some people did it in country, did and went home and were fine, but obviously we know the power of opiates. And it was, this was a common situation. Often, one or two guys would just, they were just into the junk, and that's what happened. So, from the compare and contrast we've been doing with a Full Metal Jacket, the soccer game more goes in line with the original MASH movie and their football game. I find that very interesting. This one is more of a higher stakes, and they're looking for, a way to get out of the field, which, commendable effort. But, in the comparison, it's, I doubt they're going to inject somebody with drugs halfway through the game. But, we'll see how it goes. Now, the ending is a little corny, a little too melodramatic for my taste after the rest of the movie. I get the point it's trying to get across, and I'm going by the final crawl. This is based on a true story. How much is based on, I don't really know. I haven't looked into, researching back on this movie. But overall, I really, really did like this movie. I had a good time watching it. I really got into the characters. Washington became a very, very great character study. And what war and what military life can change of like what you came in with a mentality of to what becomes more important to you, and it's the guy next to you. And that point in the movie makes I think did really well in terms of gritty and realism. It definitely has its flaws. It's not a Platoon. It's not a Full Metal Jacket. But overall, very, very good movie. I like the story narrative going from the very similar going from boot camp into the war, and just, how, this is the story of a company that just got, just chewed up by by warfare. And, it's a very good movie, and I definitely recommend it. I'm sure there's a ton of just, people who were Marines in Vietnam and other veterans could probably fill in some blanks on what was right, what was wrong. And of course, I always welcome that in comments. I learn so much when I do these because I always get people who are actually specialized in whatever military thing I'm watching the movie do. And I always love reading those comments because it really helps me overall with the channel and just learning and doing these a little better. So feel free, give me your comments, thoughts, concerns. Overall, great movie, and that's all for the Salty Seaman for now. I think I need to go back to my roots. My next one will probably be Navy based. The 3 previous to this were all Army. I mean, as much as I can count Hobgoblins as I'm having the character from Hobgoblins being Army, quote unquote. But that's all I got for now, and I'll talk to you freaks later. Peace.